broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans, producing after-shows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows, interviewing celebrities and showrunners, and bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Hey there, Sword Art Online fans! Welcome to AFTERBUZZ TV. Today we're going to be covering episodes 17 and 18, Excalibur and the House in the Forest.
Excalibur, Excalibur.
We were all thinking it.
Everyone has to be thinking that. Come on.
It's kind of hard.
That is.
Really?
Yeah. I'm a bad anime fan.
You're joking, right?
I'm not joking at all.
All right, well, we'll get to that in just a second.
Wow.
Joining me on the panel tonight, the terribly uninformed Tauri Miller.
Hold on.
The right as always, Katie Cullen.
Hi, all my buddies. Don't introduce me as that. That is gonna be. I will be eating your words later on.
Well, you were right this time around.
That's true.
I'm your host, Megan Salinas, and guys, this was a fun set of episodes. I'm so glad that, this was just fun. And so rarely does this series, because it goes back and forth between giving us something great and then slapping us in the face, so rarely do we just get 2 episodes in a row where it's like, oh, that was great.
Yeah.
Well, and they keep giving us arcs with really big stakes, and so they tried to give us really big stakes for the Excalibur arc. Oh no, the world within the game is going to end, but really, they didn't need to do that. We would have been here even if it was just a fetch quest. Let's be real.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of a filler quest, all said and done, because when we get to episode 18, we move on to the, I guess it's called the Mother Rosaria arc?
I believe so.
I don't know what that's about because I haven't read the light novels, but I'm looking
No spoilers.
Yeah, no spoilers, please. Because
You're really good at this.
For once, we're pretty much caught up with the anime as it comes out online. So we got one more week and then we'll be caught up. So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
It'll be exciting to experience it with our fans. Just as much as we can theorize, they'll be right there with us.
Yeah, because you can always take departures from the light novels. So spoilers from the light novels, even though we don't want them, aren't necessarily relevant. And so that means relatively no more cryptic messages on Facebook about what may or may not happen. Or not Facebook, YouTube, whatever that is.
Yeah, I was particularly fond of the Katie's gonna hate next episode comments. Those were my favorites. It's like, you people, you know me.
But let's get back to these episodes. Episode 17, Excalibur, where we wrap up this arc. All in all, what did you guys think? Because I just had a blast with this episode because it was all the great action that Sword Art Online is known for, like I said, without any of those slaps in the face that we usually get. With the exception of maybe one minor complaint, I had a huge set of fun with this episode. How about you guys?
I was so happy.
Katie called it.
Pick up the phone, ladies and gentlemen. I called that one.
I thought it was super fun. I have been waiting for just the whole gang to do stuff and be useful together. And just all the banter was really fun.
Yeah.
I want to be Klein.
No, you don't.
No. I want to be Klein.
Here's the thing. We love Klein. We really do. But he needs a girlfriend. He
needs to invest his emotions in someone who isn't Kirito.
Well, because you take a step back, because he is a character in this anime, and it's one thing when it is a life and death game and these are just the people that you come across that you're fighting on the front lines with. That's one thing. But if you take a step back, he's a 24-year-old guy hanging out with all these high schoolers, all these high school students, and he's hitting on NPCs. Klein, you need a girlfriend. I know you have a job. You need to get your life together, though.
It's making internet friends who are different ages than you is not that weird in this day and age. It's probably, what, like a 4-year difference? That's not terrible.
It's more like 6.
Yeah, like 6.
Because Kirito's like 17.
Yeah, and it's not extremely terrible. It could always be worse.
Right. I mean,
Hitting on NPCs is when you get pathetic.
a little bit. I mean, Agil is up there, so he kind of throws the
Well,
average in a different
Agil,
direction.
as we find out later, has other priorities.
Yes.
And we'll get to
is a
that.
strong, independent man who don't need no Kirito.
Less independent, though, as we find out. But again,
Independent from this little harem.
there we go.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, let's go ahead and get into these episodes because we just kind of open up with this fight with the Ice Giant King. And honestly, this was one of the best action sequences this series has given us because it is everything we've been wanting to see. It's all of these characters. Not one of them is unimportant in the fight. And it's great to actually see them contribute to fighting. You know, it's not all just like, oh, we're cheering for you, Kirito. No, you have Liz in there with her mace. You have Silica in there, you know, with her sword. You have Sinon, you know, firing arrows from a distance and then up in the giant's face, which is great. All of them
That was
contributed.
wonderful.
And it was so much fun to watch. And then as we see Freya, adding Freya to your party was actually a really good decision.
Congratulations, Clyde. Your libido saved the day.
Because even before we find out the truth about Freya, she is contributing like heck to this fight. It's like, oh yeah, that was a really good decision.
Congratulations. You have added one sexy NPC to your party. It turns out to be the best decision you could possibly make in this scenario.
So yeah, Klein did good. Klein did good. But
We don't say that often, do we?
not very often, no.
We miss him and we love him, but he's dumb.
But anyway, so
It's like having a dog.
oh, Klein is a puppy.
Occasionally he brings you the newspaper without slobbering all over it.
But the big thing, even though this is a really cool fight to watch, time is running out. And as we see from the amulet, it's getting to the point where it's mostly black. They are running out of time. They don't have time to dilly-dally around with this boss anymore. And that's when Freya comes up and says that the best way, you know, the way to defeat the boss is to find this hammer that he has stolen
Find
from
the
her.
hidden treasure of my people. She shouldn't even say what it is. She's just the hidden treasure of my people. It's gold. There's a huge pile of gold everywhere.
Well, no, she says it's a hammer, and that's where...
Does she?
Yeah, that's where
Okay.
Leafa gets the idea to use a thunder attack because she's read this story before. So she figured it out before anybody else did. And so Kirito uses a thunder attack. He finds the hammer, hands it over to Freya, and...
He's
again,
barely able to pick it up.
Yeah, it's huge.
It's like, you're not worthy. You're not worthy.
Because it's not strength, it's worthiness.
Right. And I love that, like, he flings it over and she's just, like, spinning it in her hand like it's nothing. It was amazing.
Yep, and...
Oh, yeah, I love this thing.
That's when we find out that Freya wasn't actually Freya. It was actually Thor in disguise, just like Katie predicted.
And this transformation sequence is beautiful because Thor is as big as the Giant King. He's huge, and he is wearing a cape, a codpiece, and knee-high boots. And that's it. He's dressed like porn star He-Man. It is wonderful. Like, can we get Chris Hemsworth in that costume? I'd like a redesign.
It was pretty hilarious to look at. It's like, oh,
was glorious.
look at that.
Well, they figured they'd even out the other fan service, you know?
Yeah.
It's nice to see this series
In a-
for once take
in
an
a
equal
big
opportunity
way.
stance.
Oh.
Boo. But anyway, so we have Thor now, who, as you mentioned, is as big as the Ice Giant King. And we have him in the fight. And this was just spectacular because you have all of them going all out, and you have basically this giant summon on your side as well, which was really cool.
It's hammer time.
Pretty.
If I had a hammer, I would hammer in the morning.
But yeah, we have them go in an all-out attack, and that's when we have Thor just clock this guy on the head. And as he's giving his final monologue, Thor just decides, okay, I'm going to curb stomp you now. I'm done with this discussion.
Literally knocks him down and stomps on his head.
Yeah.
It's kind of amazing.
Yeah, and so that's the end of the boss fight, which, again, it was one of the coolest action sequences I think we've gotten in the entire series so far. And just most fun, because, again, no one's life was at stake, but it was really just cool and fun to watch.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And Klein gets a hammer. As he lost a girl, but he gets a hammer
He's still
instead.
yelling, Freya! Honey, no. You tried. Your libido got us a giant man and a codpiece. Thank you. And he's like, that was not his plan.
Honestly, poor Klein must be so confused at this point. That he'd finally gotten over Kirito with this nice girl that he saved, and she turned out to be a giant man and a codpiece. And it's like, he's just feeling all sorts of weird things right now. It's a confusing time for him.
Well, everyone thought that it was A, a woman, and B, a trap.
Right.
So he's not the only one fooled. He's just the only one dumb enough to actually bring her along.
Yeah.
Which turned out to be the best thing to do.
Yeah, could you imagine if they had left her?
Oh, they'd be host.
Yeah, they would have lost the fight, and Alfheim Online would have been destroyed.
Yeah.
But Klein's libido saves the day. So he gives Mjolnir to Klein, and Klein's like, I don't have any hammer skills. And it's like, learn some!
Yeah, right?
You have Mjolnir! Learn some!
I hope that comes into play later, because I don't want him to be like, I don't know how to use a hammer, and then never equip it with anything.
It's like, that is a legendary weapon. Learn to use it.
Like, if that's the case, you might as well just hand it over to one of the ladies if you're not going to use it.
Right.
I mean, Liz has this mace that she wields around. She could probably learn to wield a hammer.
She already likes thunder techniques. We've seen her use them before.
There you go. Hand it over to Liz, Klein, if you don't want it.
Here is a better weapon than you could ever make.
Oh, don't tell her that.
That would
don't
go
tell
over
her that.
swimmingly.
She would probably punch him in the face.
Klein's dead now. How sad.
Klein is no longer available to appear on the show.
We didn't think that you could still kill someone in game, but it looks like you can kill someone in game. She found a way.
Are you sure she's not part of Laughing Coffin? Oh no, she's just innovative and angry.
But anyway, so Klein gets he gets the hammer, and a staircase appears at the end of the throne room, and so they go down, and that's when we get the sword and the stone. And I was a little bit annoyed because everyone was just like, Kirito, you can pull it out. And it's like, why is he the only one that gets to try?
Why don't you all grab it and start pulling? Because this is not a worthiness thing. This is a, we really need to get this out of here. Come on, guys, thing.
Well, I thought he was going to, because he was struggling with it so much, I thought like one of the ladies was going to come over and just like easily pull it out and be like, ha-ha. But
Silica just...
yeah, right. Only a sword master.
This isn't heavy.
Not gonna lie, I kind of wanted that to happen too. I thought that would have been really funny if this teeny tiny girl was the one that pulled Excalibur out, because that's kind of the story of Arthur, isn't it? Is that he was somebody you wouldn't expect to be able to pull the sword out of the stone, but everybody expects Kirito to pull the sword from the stone.
Right.
So.
And they play it straight.
Yeah.
Ah.
Which, again, he is our main character, so I'm not going to gripe about it too much. It was just a little obvious.
Take a shot. Shonen protagonist.
There it is. Good.
There we go. But when he gets the sword out from the stone, the entire castle starts collapsing because it's this big old thing in the sky, and they start falling. And this was kind of a funny sequence because they're like, we can't exactly fly away.
But even if they died, it's not like you don't lose all your weapons and equipment when you die, do you? How does this particular MMO work?
You might lose the ones that you've gained throughout the quest, though.
Ah, that would suck.
Yeah, and you do see Kirito. He's trying to access the item data for Excalibur, and he's like, I can't claim it until the quest is over, and the quest isn't over yet. And so, but then who comes to save the day but that weird elephant squid thing, Tonki.
Who is probably the only elephant squid thing left alive at that point.
Yeah.
Because they were looking at their thing saying, oh, there's one left. I'm like, it's that guy.
Yeah.
It's that guy.
Sure enough, comes to save the day. And this was a great sequence, too, just seeing all of them, like, jump from the little falling platform onto their ride, to their getaway. And Kirito has to throw away Excalibur in order to make the jump because it's too heavy for him. And this was probably my favorite sequence in the entire episode, was after he lands and they're watching Excalibur fall, Sinon just pulls out an arrow and just goes, takes aim and shoots. and basically is able to pull it back.
She's enchanted it so it's like a rope.
Yeah.
Exactly. And she just pulls it back, and it's just like, oh, there's Excalibur. I have it now.
I wish she'd kept it.
I did too, but she's not really a sword kind of girl.
Yeah.
We see that, you know, she's a sniper. She would prefer a bow and arrow to a sword any day.
I wish she'd kept it and used it as collateral. You can have the sword once we finish the quest to get me that legendary bow.
I think it would be sweet if she attached the gobbledygook that she used to snag it, and you started using it as a bow. just shot
shoot
it and
Excalibur
then bring it
at
back.
people.
Yeah, the ultimate arrow.
I don't think it would fly very well, but that's kind of great.
She would figure out a way to make it work.
Yeah.
But it was funny because that was like my favorite part of the episode, but it was immediately followed by something that kind of annoyed me. It didn't make me angry, but it annoyed me ever so slightly because so far Sinon's been the only one that is immune to Kirito's wiles.
And when we include Klein in that measure as well.
Klein and her and Agil, because Agil has his own thing going on. But Sinon was the only...
nope.
Sinon's
Kid is 14.
She's the only one in this group who's not in love with Kirito. And she hands the sword over to him, and she's like, I'm going to give this to you, but you have to make me a promise. You have to think of me every time you use it, and you have to thank me. And on the one hand, that could just be a friendship thing. That's fine. But she was blushing a little bit, and with the way all the other girls were looking at her and Kirito, it was like, no, Sho, do not do this to me. She is the one female character who is not in love with Kirito. Do not make it a thing.
This is why we can't have nice things.
I guess not. I don't know. What was your take on it?
I mean, I kind of saw it as like a, because they're essentially GGO rivals, so it was like a you owe me one kind of thing, not like a I'm in love with you. Though like, and it got weird just because everyone else knew. Yeah, I know, right? Because everyone else knows that he's Asuna's boyfriend, so it was like, hey, don't be encroaching upon my friend's boy. So I felt like it was just one of those moments.
I feel like if they had played, maybe that was the way it was meant to be in the script, or maybe that was the way it was in the light novels, but I feel like the way they played it, it was more like cutesy girl romantic. Like, I have a crush on you, so think of me. I'm not going to act on that because you clearly have a girlfriend, but I do like that take on it. I really do. I think that's a more fun take.
Yes.
Especially because they are rivals and they haven't had their rematch as far as we know.
Kirito's not going back to GGO. Are you kidding? He's like, nope, we are done.
I'm done there. I'm going to stay here where swords are a thing.
Yeah.
Where you can only get me if you're 100 meters away.
Though I would like to see that duel. That would be amazing.
Oh, no, totally.
Oh, yeah.
I totally want to see their rematch, especially when the stakes are more just them proving themselves to one another as opposed to, there's a murderer. We probably shouldn't really be doing this right now.
Right.
We should be catching that murderer.
Let me deal with my trauma, and then we'll deal with yours, because everyone's trauma is tied up in these murders. So we'll just get it figured out.
Yeah.
But, I mean... Again, this is a filler arc. It's meant to be fun, and so I don't mind it too much. That's why it's just a minor annoyance as opposed to an FU show like some of the other things that they've done.
And this is like 2 hours after Kirito pulled her tail.
Yeah.
Which was like, if you can forgive a guy for that, I guess.
I'm surprised she didn't kill him. In all honesty.
She should have. Protagonist, nothing!
We can do this quest without him.
Yeah.
Ladies, I'm here too. I know, Klein.
It's gonna take him a while. It's gonna take him a while to respawn. We'll finish the quest by then.
We don't need him. He doesn't know the mythology. He's not worthy enough to lift the hammer or the sword. You know what? Screw it. We'll be
We'll just
fine.
grab his flame, bring it with us. We'll resurrect him.
That's right.
Yeah.
He pops up just in time as the platform's collapsing. Guys, what did I miss?
Literally everything.
Well, anyway, so they make their getaway. They have Excalibur, and that's when the Lady of the Lake appears again. All is right with the world. Tonki's race seems to have been restored. The world is back in balance.
It's all green and lush and blooming.
And the other, I almost called them GGO players, the other ALO players are like, oh, I guess that quest we were on is over.
Did we win?
We were nowhere near. Right.
Yeah.
We were completely wrong. Do we still get Excalibur?
The answer is no.
Well, shoot.
But the Lady of the Lake and her sisters appear to say thank you. And it was a cool scene, although, again, this just kind of emphasizes that Klein needs a girlfriend because he hits on one of the younger sisters. And, can I have your contact info?
And right after that, I think it's Liz who has the little internal thing about, oh, Klein, I admire you so much right now. It's like, could you have done that when he wasn't desperately hitting on an NPC? Because I would have bought that because, it was kind of his thing that made this quest go, and it was his libido that saved the day. But could you not have said that right after he hit on a bundle of code?
Hey, he's nobly giving his heart away.
No, he's
to every girl who walks by.
Yes, that's how it works.
He's the Brock of this series, isn't he?
Yes.
Oh
I
my
just
God.
made that realization.
See, I didn't make that connection because he opens his eyes.
Yeah.
So,
But yeah, he's Brock.
wow.
I'm gonna have to think about that for a while.
Anyway, the other woman.
Anyway, so the quest is won. Kirito is able to claim it as his own. And so that's great. That wraps up this arc. But before we go on to the next episode, we do get a scene within the Dicey Cafe where it looks like they have cameras set up so that Yui can actually communicate to them while they're in the Dicey Cafe, which on the one hand is really cute because it's Yui. On the other hand, it's a little unsettling because she's like Skynet.
Yes.
Pretty much.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for them to have some sort of virtual reality, like hologram projection of her so that she can actually run around in the cafe. Like, that's the next step, I feel like.
Right.
It's just getting a little creepy. Where's the line?
I don't know.
There is no line. Only fairy wings. Well, I think that it's not supposed to make sense.
Okay, good, because it did.
It didn't. Of course it didn't. I committed.
Anyway.
So, I think that for anyone who's ever watched Excel World, which is kind of a cousin series to this one, it's all kind of, because they've kind of touched upon it before, where Kirito was talking about earlier in this series, to Asuna, that he wants to create like a 3D environment that you can live in the real world. So I think it's kind of building to that, which is what Excel World is. So I think it's kind of playing with those two technologies.
Well, supposedly they exist within the same world.
Yeah.
And I think it was Amanda that said when we had her on as a guest that the whole idea behind the main character of Excel World was to be like the anti-Kirito because he made Kirito too perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And yet we still don't like him.
Anyway, but the only other thing to touch on with this episode is this final talk about the meaning of the word Excalibur, because it's always kind of interesting in anime when they have discussions about English words because it is something that's foreign to them. And they talk about how, I don't know about you guys, all the stories I read always call Excalibur, not Caliber, like they say. I don't know, that might be a translation thing.
I've heard Caliber very infrequently and never in conjunction with King Arthur stories. Like, I can't even remember where I've heard it, but I know it's come up like twice.
I know that
potentially in anime.
I know that there's a sword that is like Excalibur but evil. It's like its sister sword or something like that, and I don't know if that's Caliber.
No, that's Soul Calibur.
No.
I know.
Not a pun. I'm talking about like a real legend.
I know. I'm being facetious.
And I can't remember what the name of it is. I'd have to look it up. But the long and short of this conversation is that since caliber is the means of the merit or worth of a person's character, that it has to be somebody who has an extraordinary character to be able to wield the sword. And that's when they all look at Kirito, meaning, you're buying our drinks, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, you just did a private job with the government and came away with a good paycheck, right?
Drinks are on me, I guess. But, I mean, it was a good, cute way to end this particular arc, and it was nice. And again, it was just fun. I don't know. Any final thoughts on this episode?
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the hell out of it.
Yeah, it was
Stripper He-Man Thor was great.
It's just nice to be validated, right?
It is, and validated in the best way.
All right, so before we move on to the episode, we want to talk to you guys really quickly about iTunes. Folks, thank you so much for everybody who goes to iTunes to rate and leave a comment. We really appreciate it. It's the best way to let our bosses know that you like the show that we're putting on and that we are giving you the best possible Sword Art Online after show that we can give you. The people at AfterBuzz produce over 80 hours of content a week to give to you for free, meaning the people behind the scenes work about 90 hours a week to give that to you. So it really means the world when you go to iTunes, leave a comment. We also love hearing you guys on YouTube, and all of that support is very much appreciated.
We read everything you say.
Yeah.
We do.
It really does. It means the world. And it makes our day when we get like a lot of fun comments on a video. So thank you guys so much. We really appreciate that.
Yes.
Okay. Episode 18, House in the Forest, which is, again, the
Kind of like a cabin in the woods.
only hopefully less creepy.
Yeah.
That's the great thing about thesauruses and words in the human language. If I invite you to my house in the forest, we're gonna have a good time and maybe a picnic. And if I invite you to my cabin in the woods, we're all gonna die.
Yeah, no.
I love it.
Never go to a cabin in the woods.
Never go to a cabin in the woods.
Unless you
That
like
was a rule
camping.
even before Whedon got a hold of it. I don't care if you're camping. Never go to a cabin in the woods, especially with 5 people.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's
no.
the worst
All
number.
teenagers. That's a bad idea.
I don't care if one of them is Chris Hemsworth. Someone's gonna die. He keeps coming up in this episode.
It was a great movie. For any of you who haven't seen Cabin in the Woods yet, it's a great movie. Check it out.
For those of you who haven't seen it yet, do not wiki anything. Do not watch any trailers. Go into it blind and watch it.
Yeah.
It's a better experience.
Okay, we're not going to talk about Cabin in the Woods. As much as I would totally love and sit here to just talk for an hour on Cabin in the Woods, because I would totally do that. But we have a show to get to.
Yes, we do.
So basically this one, it's very interesting, in all honesty, just looking at this episode as a whole, because we wrapped up the Phantom Bullet arc with somebody who wanted that. Like, that was their perverse fantasy. And, like, it was a very twisted version of what our heroes want. It was what they wanted. You know, Shinkawa was like, let's have a house and we'll have kids and go on adventures. And that's essentially what they have here. Only here it's played up romantically and nostalgically. Like, this is the one place Asuna can call home. But oh my gosh, after that really twisted, kind of perverse look at it, I have a harder time looking at this as though it is whimsical and romantic. I don't know, what did you guys think?
Well, there's this thing called consent. And this relationship has it in spades. And that's what makes it better. They both want this. They're both okay with this. It's kind of a second life thing. As long as you don't let it take over your actual living in the real world life, you're good. And that was the problems with Shinkawa was, A, what is consent?
Yeah.
And B, we're just going to live in the virtual world forever. You know, I reject your reality and substitute it with my own. Both of which were huge, huge fundamental issues, neither of which Asuna and Kirito have.
Also,
better.
How about you?
I mean, I have words. But
Me too.
No, yeah.
Yeah, words.
But I guess I understand it from a story standpoint because we have history there,
Yeah.
and they've earned our view of romanticism, whereas Shinkawa was essentially projecting his own fantasies on Asuna, and so.
Sinon.
What did I say?
Asuna.
Every girl.
Wow!
Well, I will say it's nice.
times as creepy.
I-
Can we stop creeping on Asuna now? Is that just the default?
I will say it was nice to have an episode that was focused on Asuna, considering she took a back seat during the Phantom Bullet arc. So it's nice. But anyway, you go ahead and continue.
Yeah, so like for me, it's more of a nostalgia thing. Like they have this house, and it's a place for them to meet since they're in different cities and stuff like that. So that's nice. Whereas like I think that if you try to force that kind of thing, and you don't have that kind of relationship, then it becomes
A cabin in the woods.
Different. Yeah. So Shinkawa has a cabin in the woods.
It's
and they have
horrible.
a house in the forest.
Exactly.
But okay, fair enough. But the only thing again that I have where it's kind of like is because she does seem to be having a little bit of issues at home, to the point where she's not talking about it, but you can definitely tell that there's something going on in the real world that she doesn't want to talk about, either because it's unpleasant or she just doesn't want to put that burden on anybody. And or she wants to pretend like, okay, that's a problem I'll deal with later. Right now, I'm just here in my virtual house with my boyfriend and all of our friends and everything.
Mm-hmm. I feel like what she's been dealing with in the real world right now is probably something she's been dealing with her entire life, because more than once Liz makes a crack about, oh, you well-bred girls, you have it so difficult, yada, 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 in the same way that we make cracks about, oh, the Kardashians, their lives are so hard. You know, they're rich, they can shut up. But we see things from Asuna's point of view, and she has to play hostess, and she has to make nice, and the way they frame the guys that she has to make nice to makes it very obvious that they are not good people. We don't need dialogue or sound, it's just framing. It's great. And this is probably something that she had to do before SAO came around. But when she was stuck in SAO, when her old life was not a bearing on survival at the moment, that was probably the first time that she actually got some time to have some freedom to be able to do what she wanted. And then having to go back when she had that freedom and she had a boyfriend and she had the friends that she'd made outside of her identity as a well-bred girl, it's probably tough going back. Like, I had a good thing. I still want that good thing now that I know how good it is compared to what I'm dealing with now.
Right. And she mentions that something terrible happened to her recently. Mm-hmm. And the frame before that was of
those
her
guys.
Kind of on a date kind of situation.
Yeah. It makes me wonder if her parents aren't setting her up again. At least she's awake this time.
Set her up with a guy. She was comatose, and he was the reason.
Well, Liz
among other
made
things.
a mention of that. Like, she was like, maybe there's a arranged marriage you're not telling us about, and she kind of shirks it off. Doesn't deny it, but kind of just skirts it.
Oh, dear God, not again. Does Kirito have to stab someone again?
I gotta stab
Does Kirito
somebody.
have to stab a person?
At least this one so far doesn't look like a psychotic madman. Anyway.
No, we just have these are not good people framing. The camera angle, the colors, the silhouette.
If you noticed, in the opening, there are new characters in the opening now. And so it makes me wonder if it's like, are you guys going to be popping up in the game? That'll be interesting if that's the case.
And even while she was out doing stuff with her family, like they took her to this place out in the middle of nowhere, I guess, a vacation home.
With very little Wi-Fi.
No Wi-Fi. She couldn't get a connection. I'm like, wow, that's hell. I'm pretty sure that's cruel and unusual punishment.
No, for a teenager, absolutely.
Right.
For a teenager who half their life is online and this is the only way that she can stay in contact with her boyfriend?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty bad.
Wi-Fi's like water.
Oh, yeah, exactly. You need it to live.
Have you seen the pyramid of basic human needs?
No, I haven't.
I can't remember, and someone in the comments, please link this. Someone's got to know what image I'm talking about, where it's this hierarchy of human needs, and at the bottom it's, like food and water, and above it it's shelter, and above it it's companionship.
Well, I
and then
know about that from school. Yeah, absolutely.
At the very bottom, someone drew in another one and wrote Wi-Fi. We're like, yep, pretty much.
Yep, that makes sense. But this episode, all our speculation about what this means for Asuna aside, the storytelling in this episode was kind of out of order and very interesting, because we start off in their house and then we go back, and it's very interesting. So I guess let's start chronologically at the beginning, because they're in the Dicey Cafe, and this is when we get some facts about Agil that we didn't know, and some development about Agil that we didn't know. He has a wife! He's married! Good for him!
That answers the question about how he was able to still have the cafe after being under for 2 years. He joint owns it with his wife. They co-run the place.
Yeah.
So she was probably keeping it afloat while he was comatose and stuck in a death game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he
she's
actually...
Superwoman, apparently.
And evidently he had been trying to get a headset for her too, but he could only pre-order one. And they played each other for the opportunity to go into SAO, and he won. I could just imagine her being like, if only I'd been better, if only I'd managed to beat him, if only I'd, then at least he'd be okay.
Basically, after this this little bit of exposition, all I want to do now is see Agil's wife in game.
I know.
Like that's really all I want at the moment.
And she's American.
Yeah, they met online.
They met via MMOs and got married, and then she moved to Japan and ran at the cafe with him. It's like, I want this story. I want this story.
Yeah, no, it explains why he doesn't have time to hang out with a bunch of middle schoolers in high school.
He has a wife and a business.
He don't need no Kirito because he's got something way better.
Which it's great to find out about. But another thing they talk about is, again, Asuna feels like their old home was more of home than home ever was. And I wonder how many times I can put home into the same sentence.
Home.
But they're making an announcement that the new Aincrad, they're opening up floors 21 and through 30, which is kind of weird. I thought they were just kind of clearing them as they went, but I guess there is somebody moderating it to an extent.
Right.
Yeah.
So, again, kind of weird, but okay.
And they're rolling out the expansion on Christmas Eve. If anyone out there plays World of Warcraft, you know that when you roll out an expansion, there's going to be issues. So not only is it a butt ton of players apart from their families to play this, it's a whole lot of tech support on call for 24 hours, making sure that stuff works. That's an awful date to roll it out. Come on, guys.
It's run by Scrooge.
That would make sense. But
I'd buy that.
But
This
with
is the game that tried to do Ragnarok.
There you go. But with that, floor 22 is going to be open, which is where their old home was. And so we basically get the boss fight for floor 21. And this was great because not only do we get our, all of our crew in there, including Agil, and seeing them fight. And I even thought that the minister was there. I was like, is he playing with them? He looked like the other Undine that was back there with Asuna.
He doesn't have anything to do on Christmas Eve.
I guess not.
I mean, he plays with them sometimes. They mentioned him sometime in the last arc. They're like, oh, but he's busy at this time.
He's unreliable.
Yes.
Because he has that pesky government job.
Evidently.
But I loved this fight because not only do we have our crew, we have other people too. And then we have Asuna going, you know what? I'm better on the front lines. And she's like, you can handle it, and goes and takes the boss out herself. And that was one of the most satisfying things so far in SAO2.
Oh,
because
yeah.
she belongs on the front lines.
Yeah.
It's so nice to see her back there.
Yes. I have nothing to say but that. Just yes.
She is the lightning flash.
Yes. The return of the lightning flash. We need more of that. We really do.
Exactly. And so she is able to, she and Kirito are able to go and buy the same house. And that's when we get this little homework party where Kirito's asleep, and that's when they start talking about this character named Zeken, who is this unknown, apparently pretty powerful person that hangs out on the 24th floor and challenges people, all the time, and hasn't been beaten once. He beat Lifa, he beat Liz, he beat Kirito.
Mm-hmm.
But they also brought up the point that Kirito does not fight up to his full potential if it's not a life and death fight. He takes it a little easier and has fun with it, which is actually, I think, a really good thing to hear.
Yeah, no, that's healthy.
Yeah, yes it is. Mr. Battle Maniac, Mr. Adrenaline Junkie up in here doesn't feel like he has to fight for his life every time. And you're right, that's healthy.
Yeah,
it's nice to hear.
It's good that having these relationships is having a positive effect on our, battle-crazed protagonists.
It's also nice to hear our shonen protagonists get taken down a peg.
Yeah, that was great.
Fun.
And honestly, I like that they touch on the fact that could this be an SAO survivor? And Kirito goes, no, because if that had been the case, the dual-wielding skill would have been given to this person and not me. Like, there's no way they could be an SAO survivor because they're just that good.
Right.
But
they probably converted from somewhere else because their stats are way too high for someone who's only been in ALO for a couple of weeks.
And that's very interesting. So we have Asuna who decides that she is going to go and try to take this person on. But I guess we can go ahead and get into predictions then, because we have there we go.
Ooh.
And now your AFTERBUZZ TV
predictions.
Your laser light show.
Because you made up the really good point. They bring up that
Yes.
Asuna has an alternate account where she's a sylph, and she decides she'll just go with the one she's used to. So,
And after looking at everything that's in the opening sequence and seeing that we have a dark-haired girl that starts featuring heavily in the new opening.
and in the ending.
And in the ending, we have no idea who this person is. And from what we see of Zeken, it's a guy in purple with dark hair. I think that Zeken is an alternate account for this girl. That she plays on 2 different accounts, and she's playing as a male right now because male gamers get taken seriously. And so if she decides to do her other account, no one will know who she is.
That's interesting.
That's my theory, is that person in the opening and Mysterious Zeken person are one and the same.
How about you, Sorry?
I
Thoughts?
can't beat that. Man.
Winner!
You called that Shinkawa was a bad guy.
I did because I know story, guys. Gosh, I'm still wrapping my brain around your predictions.
Well, who did you think Zeken was? Because we had a scene where Kirito spoke to him, but nobody knows what he said.
I was hoping that he's gonna be Schmidt based on his face lines.
Yeah.
That would be nice to see Schmidt and those guys again.
Yeah.
Well, and you said the jawline looks a lot like Kayaba Akihiko did, like Heathcliff.
Like Heathcliff's, yeah.
That would be
'Cause
great,
I was
too.
looking at that, I was like, Heathcliff?
but I'm like, nah, he's like dead, like really dead, like so
His
dead.
consciousness is still floating around in cyberspace.
Yeah,
though.
why wouldn't you upload yourself into this game and be like, I'm gonna play all these players?
But there's playing, and then there's making a big deal of yourself. And I feel like Kayaba Akihiko would not be like, hey, guys.
Really?
He'd be like,
I feel like that's exactly what he would do.
The guy who made himself the king of the Knights of Blood Oath wouldn't show off. Are you serious?
Well, and that actually brings up an interesting question. What is at the top of Castle Aincrad now? Because
Shoot.
previously, Kayaba Akihiko was going to be the final boss. And now that, Kayaba Akihiko's consciousness is still in cyberspace, what is at the top of that castle? Is it a...
They never even got to the first one.
Yeah, exactly. No, they didn't.
I love that every time it's been a get to the top of wherever quest, the top has always been a lie.
Yeah, pretty
Get
much.
to the top of the tree, it's not there. Get to the top of the castle, it's the guy you've been playing with the entire time. Get to the top of the... Wait, no, just take that guy down. Oh, good.
Well, I'm ready to basically hop on the same train as you, because last time we made predictions, they all came true. It was great.
Yeah, but mine was based on research of mythology, so that's a little different.
That's true, but just based on the opening and the closing, I want to say that that's the case. Anyway, folks, thank you so much for joining us today. Tauri Miller, where can the people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at TauriJ. That's TaurijAY. You can also find me on Facebook at facebook.com/TauriJMiller. That's JAY.
I'm Katie Cullen. You can find me on Twitter and Tumblr at Kiaxet. That's Kiaxet. I am also on the Z Nation Arrow and Star Wars Rebels panels.
And you can follow Liz on Twitter at Lizzie Malley. That's LIZZYMAWY. And you can follow me on Twitter at The Menguin. That's TheMenguin. I'm also on Z Nation later tonight. Folks, thank you so much again for tuning in. We will see you guys next week.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.